We all have to
Could. But he's so makpid. He's a good boy. He's such a good boy. You are. He's a good boy.
Go back.
Yeah.
Tova.
No, not that one. The riches are still there. I'm close to them.
Okay, Shavua Tov, everybody. Shavua Tov Barach. Let's hope that Mashiach comes this week.
Amen.
Month of Iyar is sponsored by the Silvers, Leilu Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, by the Aaron family in memory of Levi ben Yosef, by the Polsteins, Leilu Nishmas Frida Simon Bas Yitzchak, by the Kram family in loving memory of the Abba and Zayde, Nachum Shimon ben Yitzchak Aryeh, and by the Millers in honor of Sam Miller completing his cycle learning the Torah. This week of Yud Gimel Yud Tet Iyar is sponsored by Miriam and Avram Deutsch, in memory of Avram's Abba, Mordechai ben Avram, Abba v'Sara, Zichrono Livrocha, on his Yortzeit. All right, let's pass these around. Today we have an inevitable piece that we have to address when we speak about Mashiach, Tzidkenu. On the Sfarim, if you have it, it's page 182. Could I bother someone to just give us some oxygen? Is that okay? Some air up there? If it, not the freezer, but
Not the freezer.
not the freezer, but something.
The refrigerator.
We're good? Yeah. Fridge, not freezer. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Not in mine. How bizarre is that? Stop being the same.
All right, so this thing that we're going to be learning today is something that I know many people know as a concept. Quite frankly, the more we mention it as concepts without learning it, you freak yourselves out. And that is, of course, Gog UMagog. Milchemet Gog UMagog, the war of Gog UMagog. Anyone want to share what the first gut reaction you have when I say Gog UMagog? Yeah?
Now it is, we're there.
Okay, we're
No
there.
one's saying
We're
it.
there. Next. What
We
else?
already
Gut
had it in the
reaction.
Shoah.
We already had it in the Shoah. What else? Anything else pop up when you say the words Gog UMagog?
I think Mashiach's coming.
Mashiach's coming. Anyone have parim babeten? Anyone get butterflies in your stomach when you say these things, these words? Gog UMagog? No? Everyone's calm. Wow, what an enlightened community. What a
But how is this Milchemet Gog UMagog going to affect Am Yisrael?
No, I'm not asking the hows. I'm asking.
That's what's in my gut. Like, what's it going to do to us, and how are we going to get it?
Right, but you're asking a question. I'm asking
That's my parparim and my parparim.
So that's a very neutral, politically correct statement. That's very good. That's very good. The way we generally approach things is we learn. You know, you have to learn. There's a lot of statements that can be said, feelings that can be felt, v'chule, but without learning inside, it could be a lot of assumptions. It could also be very accurate, what we're feeling. Lo dea, doesn't matter what it is. But v'talmud Torah keneged kulam, to learn it, to learn something inside, that's the way that we've been approaching any topic regarding the coming of Mashiach, and that's what it has to be for today as well. Now, there's someone else that's also part of this sugya that's also kind of like, how exactly is he part of it? I mention his name a lot. I know he has something to do with Mashiach. I know he's been around for a while, and that's Eliyahu Hanavi. So both things, Bezrat Hashem, in today's shir, we're going to see inside. I'm not going to promise that it's going to bring more it'll bring more clarity. I don't know if it'll bring more. I don't know. You know what? Let's. I'm not going to preview. I shouldn't have said that. We'll see. Let's see what happens inside. Rav Barad says like this: "B'toda'at hatzibur kshura bias HaMashiach im hofa'ato shel Eliyahu Hanavi mevaser ha'geula." Eliyahu Hanavi is known as the proclaimer of redemption. You know, like news, like lahavdil elef alfei avdalas. When someone chachas v'sholom checks out from their life, it's a public persona. There's someone that comes out of the hospital at a press conference and he's mevaser. He proclaims, this person has taken off. Or let's try to do the other side, Tova, when a really good thing happens, although we're not so used to that someone comes out and there's a press conference and says, we have
Discovered something.
we have
Landed on the moon.
I'll start with, we have eliminated all terrorists in Eretz Yisrael.
Amen.
Imagine that's mevaser, it comes with the Besora. Eliyahu Navi is the master Besora giver. That he's going to come and let us know that, like we say, Vivaser lanu besorot tovot yeshuot v'nechamot. That's kind of his role. And he's always linked with the concept of Mashiach. So what's the first source for this? Hamakor harishon lekach hu kamuvan hapasuk, hine anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu Navi, lifnei bo yom Hashem hagadol v'hanora. This is coming straight out of the prophet Malachi, the last prophet that we remember, the last 3 prophets that we had, Beit Sheni, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, right? So the Malachi is coming and telling us, before the great day actually comes down, Eliyahu Navi is coming to let us know that it's true. There's a great nigun to these words as well. Any of you remember what haftarah of the year we lay in this? Which Shabbos? It's very
Shabbat
B'diuk. Shabbat HaGadol, Erev Pesach, we say these words. Hine anochi sholech lachem et Eliyahu Navi. Od davar shenik. So, okay, that's just we have one concept here that the prophets tell us Eliyahu Navi is linked to the coming of Mashiach. He's the one that proclaims it. Od davar shenikrach im geula. Another thing that, you know what nikrach means? What do you think that word comes from?
Korech.
What's korech? Like it's the sandwich, right? So another thing that's like sandwiched with the concept of geula is milchemet Gog UMagog. Yef. Yesh rabim שכאשר, next page, הם שומעים על בואו הקרוב של המשיח. There are many people that when they hear about the immediate arrival of the Melech HaMashiach, מיד הם מתמלאים חרדה. They start freaking out. מפני מלחמת Gog UMagog, because they know or they think that what that means is, oh, Mashiach's coming. That means World War III, right? Immediately, that's what we think. Milchemet Gog UMagog. Boom, immediately it's going to be like this. כפי שהדברים נראים, the way things look, זו אמורה להיות מלחמה קשה שבה ישתתפו אומות רבות, ושההכרעה תבוא על הרי ישראל. This is not stam that we have these thoughts. In Yechezkel, chapter 38 and 39, these concepts are brought down, because it seems it's supposed to be a very difficult war. Many nations will take place in it. And the hachra'ah, how do you say hachra'ah?
Deciding.
There's a word for it. No, yeah, there's a word for it. Like the end game, the end result, will take place on the mountains of Israel. Can you say that happened already in our times? No? You can't say there was a war where many nations fought against Israel, and
We're waiting for the victory.
we're waiting for the victory.
We did it in 48 and then 67, so.
That's why I'm saying, I mean,
Yeah.
some of this kind of, it seems, big element of this has already happened. I mean,
Nations
There were-
48 was like often here. It was mostly here. It seems like now we have.
yeah. Again, Zamora liot milchama. We'd have to open up Yechezkel inside the chapters to see more in detail, but he's giving us the synopsis of it, and he's saying it's supposed to be a very hard war that many nations will take place. So you have, there were about 7 nations that came and attacked us in 1948 and in 1967, maybe you want to say 5, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm not saying that it is like this, I'm just saying there's room to say, Rega, shnia, kvar hayinu po. We've been here already.
But it has to be also the end result after.
So the end result is the end result is Mashiach, right? It's not a
So couldn't have happened.
Didn't happen yet.
exactly. Well, again, on a timeline, that's the whole question here. You could say, well, it didn't happen yet because the end of that result didn't happen yet. How, in world history, how much time has passed since 1967? About half a minute in world history. And we always have to keep that in mind. We're just used to this, this immediate thing. I was watching an interview that someone was doing recently trying to explain this concept, and he said, listen, it's not stam that we have this saying, Am hanetzach lo mefached miderech aruka. We're not scared if this derech, which to us seems aruch, seems long, is because we know that in Hashem's eyes, ki elef shanim beinecha keyom etmol. 1,000 years is like yesterday for you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm just putting a lot of things out there. I'm not saying what it is or what it isn't, but it's very good to keep these things in mind when we're discussing these concepts. So sugiyot ele, next paragraph, sugiyot ele me'orerot she'elot rabot. These sugiyas bring up a lot of different questions. Matai bidiyuk amur leofiya Eliyahu hanavi. What's his timeline? When is he exactly supposed to appear? Eliyahu hanavi. When's his appearance supposed to be? האם תפקידו רק להכריז על בואו של המשיח, או ששמרו לו תפקיד מעשי בשלב מתקדם יותר של הגאולה? What did he sign up for? Was it just to be the one that proclaims the Mashiach's coming, or does he have another job? So, if you remember the Haftarah, or the Nigun, maybe that'd be easier for you, but it says, Hine anochi sholeach lachem et Eliyahu hanavi. Right? Now, how does the second verse go? Does anyone know? Veheishiv levavon al bahanim velev banim al avotam. That means Eliyahu hanavi is the one that comes and brings shalom between parents and children. That's a pretty big deal. Where else does Eliyahu hanavi show up in our yearly cycle? Bris and Pesach, Motzei Shabbos. God bless you. These are three interesting moments of Bris. Eliyahu Navi comes; it's always there. Kisei Eliyahu. We have also when we open up the door on Pesach, Shvoch Hamas Chalagoyim, Kos Shel Eliyahu, and then of course we also have Eliyahu Navi every Motzei Shabbos. What are the things that are common to all three of them? Times when the family needs to be closest as possible. When you're entering a child into a covenant, that's utmost closeness between parents and children. Of course, Leil Seder, that's the night of closeness between parents and children. And Motzei Shabbos, when a family has hopefully tasted a shtekol Gan Eden, and they have to go back into this world, the family knows we have to keep it tight to make it through another week. So the question we have here is Eliyahu Hanavi's only job proclaiming that Mashiach's come, or is there something else that he has to do? According to the Navi, Malachi, Veheshiv lev avot al banim velev banim al avotam could seem to some people like a harder gig than proclaiming that Mashiach is coming. Bringing shalom between parents and children, children and parents. Heshiv lev avot al banim velev banim al avotam. Children will have space again in their hearts for their parents, and parents will understand again what it means to have room in their hearts for their children. That's messianic. Mamish messianic. We're all messianic. If you understand, if that's what it means to be a messianic Jew, I'm signing up, today. So that's a question. So what else is his job? Now the next question is, Uma al milchemet Gog UMagog. What about this war of Gog UMagog? איך תתנהל מלחמה זו ובאיזה מידה יהיה לעם ישראל חלק בה? So how will this war take place? And to what extent will Am Yisrael have a job in, like, an active piece in this war? Now, let's consider for a second that it hasn't happened yet. Chas v'shalom. God forbid. Just want to say like that. Would you be okay if other nations in the world took out the Gog UMagog entities and we wouldn't even have to lift a sword? I'd be pretty happy, no? I'd be pretty happy if the Donald did it all by himself. I mean, it'd be nice. I'm not putting my money on anything. Al tiftechu bin divi ben adam shein lo tshua. Achashverosh is waking up on a different side of the bed this week. He's just a pawn, right? But that's not our Indian. Is to put zero trust and faith in anyone but HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The question is, what do we know about this war? We know of it. do we really know of it? We know it exists. We know it as a concept. But what mamish lemaisa is going on over here with this war? So he continues and he says like this, you have to, again, our Inyan is not to assume, we have to learn. We must learn. We must learn these sugyas inside. Ha'iyun b'divrei Chazal, third paragraph, ha'iyun b'divrei Chazal, בסוגיות האלה אינו מסייע להעברת התמונה ואף מגדיל את הערפול. So here he's saying, it's true we have to learn, but there's another time, there's another opportunity that we see, that when we delve into sugyas regarding Mashiach, the more you learn, the more confused you'll get. Why? Due to the lack of clarity regarding these sugyot. We've seen this already a number of times, that the more that we learn something, or we look specifically in the Rambam, whether it's Rambam Hilchos Melachim in the Mishneh Torah versus Rambam in Igeret Teiman, it's not necessarily that clarity is what comes out of it. Here too, this concept of Eliyahu Hanavi's role and the whole happening of Milchemet Gog UMagog, it doesn't necessarily, you don't walk out of there saying, now I get it. That's not what happens. But we still, it doesn't exempt us from learning inside as much as we can. יש בזה מחלוקות בין החכמים ותיאורים סותרים. Our sages have disputes regarding the manner and the nature of what these concepts are, and contradictory descriptions. זו אגב הסיבה, this is the reason, שמי שמנסים לסרטט תחזיות על סמך המקורות בעניינים האלה, מגיעים לתרחישים שונים ומנוגדים לזה לזה בתכלית. This is also the reason, something that we saw before, why when you give a tachazit, when you give a prediction, when you give the weather report of, this will happen here, and when this happens, and when that nation strikes here, does this and that, and then boom, 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 that's the time Mashiach's going to come. You see, you could have two people that learned Mekoros inside, they come and they write their own description of their own prediction, and it could be completely opposing each other. How could it be? They learned the same Torah, yeah, but they also learned the different opinions, and there is no hakol modim. You know, in the Gemara at the end of a sugya sometimes, to kind of like solidify the whole concept, the Gemara will use hakol modim, which means, well, everyone agrees, everyone admits, and says hakol modim the leshitas whoever, according to that shita. Enpo. It doesn't exist here. And perhaps this can also be one of the reasons why it was very hard for in schools, in curriculums, to actually provide this as a topic, because everything else generally that we learn through curriculums, there is some type of a logic, there's some kind of a flow, there's a rationale that needs to lead to telling the kid, here, take this home. This happened, this will happen. But we don't have that in key pieces, so to speak. If they're key pieces or not, we'll see in a second, when it comes to Melech HaMashiach. Okay, so Me'agmara, what does the Gemara say in Eruvin? Me'agmara mashma, שבשורת אליהו היא על ניצחונו הסופי של המשיח. From the Gemara it seems, we learn that Eliyahu Hanavi is saying Mashiach's here is also really proclaiming the end game, the Mashiach's win, the victory that Mashiach has with the war against the nations of the world that come up and try to wage war on Yerushalayim. And the aftermath of that should be ikvotav hakol avadim hen liYisrael. Everyone is a servant to Am Yisrael. Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel, the Abarbanel says, שאליהו הנביא יבוא בתחילת תחיית המתים. That's his time of showing up. In the beginning of the resurrection of the dead. I mean, who better than him? Because he keeps on checking in, checking out. That's Eliyahu Hanavi's whole, thing. Never really checked out. He just Allah b'se'ara shamayma. He goes up in a storm up to the heavens. V'hu yeh rosh lakamim batchiyah. He will be according to the Abarbanel. You can't ignore the Abarbanel. It's a very important voice in our Masorah. Rabbi Yitzchak Don Abarbanel says that Eliyahu Hanavi will be the first one that gets up with the resurrection of the dead. Interesting. Yefeh. So,
What's the Gemara's opinion? So Rabbi now says at Tchiat HaMeitim, and the Gemara says at a different time?
well, that's the question. It could be that that's the same time, that the Tchiat HaMeitim happens
Endgame.
by the end game, exactly. Which I think the way that we learned it does shtem. Now, let's go back to Gog UMagog. So we have a description from Zechariah Hanavi. Zechariah, it's very interesting how Zechariah, he is probably, I think, one of the most underrated people that we have. And I'll share just briefly why. To understand a lot of context, a lot of context of how things developed with regarding Am Yisrael becoming a nation, continuing to be a nation, Gullus, the whole thing. Zechariah is really, 1 year, it should just be a year of just learning about Zechariah. Because here he tells us something very, very, very interesting that no one could ignore. Zechariah Hanavi מתאר מלחמה גדולה, שבה יתאספו אומות העולם על ירושלים למלחמה. He describes a mass war where a lot of nations in the world will come up to Yerushalayim to wage war. That's why I asked you before, do you think this happened already? Right? Because this is why the times we're living in are so confusing. Because you'll see. בחג הסוכות יתרחש הניצחון של עם ישראל, but Zechariah says, on Sukkot will be the victory that Am Yisrael has over these nations. שישולב באירועים דרמטיים. It's going to be dramatic events. כמו בקיעת הר הזיתים לשניים. הר הזיתים will be split into two. ומש חצי ההר צפונה וחציו נגבה. Half of it will move northbound and half of it southbound. שלל הגויים יחולק לעם ישראל. You know how you say shalal? The loot, right? The spoils of Am Yisrael, of the goyim will dispersed amongst Am Yisrael. ולאחר מכן יעלו הגויים מדי שנה בשנה לירושלים לחגוג את חג הסוכות. And afterwards, every year, like it was in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, the nations of the world will come up to Yerushalayim for Sukkot. לדעת המפרשים, and according to some מפרשים, המלחמה המתוארת שם, this war that is described in Zechariah, that's Gog UMagog. Question, has that happened yet? Has any of this happened? Has any part of this war happened yet?
This war is about Yerushalayim, we see Yerushalayim.
They've been saying it from day one. They have been saying it from day one. This war is about Yerushalayim. Every war was about Yerushalayim. It wasn't the Golan, it wasn't the Talat Suez Canal, it wasn't Sinai. Every war is about Yerushalayim. Remember the reports that came in from the Chayalim that first went into Gaza? Everyone said the same thing. Everyone said the same thing. There weren't pictures, no one there found a picture of Madonna in a house in Gaza. No one found a picture of LeBron James, of an athlete. No one found any of that. They found Har HaBayis. That's what they found. Har HaBayis. Every home. Har HaBayis. And what do we do if we're really holding? Well, some have graduated, but if we're really holding a picture of the Kotel. I told you what I saw with my own eyes in Be'eri. My own eyes. One of the trips down to Be'eri, I saw the graffiti on one of the homes, and because I read Arabic, I saw that it said there, this is a war on Yerushalayim. I read it, Mabul al-Quds. And we're still holding back with describing what this is exactly, right? They're telling us straight out what it is. We're still kind of holding back, giving all these weird names to every single time there's another mivtza. I don't know how this works. Is it a computer? No, I'm serious. Do they get these names from like a AI, ChatGPT or something? Look down. I mean, there's Ashgacha and everything, you know. You know, Barzel in the Sefarim, in Ciphering Kabbalah, Barzel shows up a lot when it comes to Schus Imahos. Schus Imahos, because Barzel stands for Bila, Rachel, Zilpah and Leah, right? Have you heard that before?
No.
It's like they didn't consciously choose that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's Ashgacha involved over here. The swords of Rachel, Bilhah, Zilpah, and Leah. Like that, there's an Indian, there's something going on. Right? I don't understand it exactly. They're not going through simonim and hints and everything. They're saying straight out what it is. It's a war on Yerushalayim. That's why, nachon, that the end game and all these questions that we have, of course, is not there yet in our concept of time. Granted. But this Sefer is going to push us to expand our not just our depth, but also just our knowledge, to see that this is not such a clear-cut, straightforward sugya, and that it could be that a lot of what we've been discussing and what has been brought down by the prophets is something that's been unfolding mamish in front of our eyes. For thousands of years, it was unfolding very, very, very slowly. And in our time and our children's time, it's unfolding faster than it's been since the creation of the world. That's, to me, what it seems like. Okay, next page. This war that Zechariah described, the prophet Yechezkel has something to say about it as well. Al המלחמה הזאת מנבא הנביא יחזקאל ואלה קווים הכלליים. These are the general lines regarding this war. כל האומות נאספות למלחמה על ירושלים. So he says it a little bit differently. All the nations come, they gather, and they wage war on Yerushalayim. מצליחות לכבוש אותה. They actually succeed in conquering Yerushalayim. ולהגלות מחצית מהעם. And to send out into exile a half of the people. That's what Yechezkel says. ואז הקדוש ברוך הוא יוצא ונלחם באויבי ישראל. And then God himself comes out and fights the enemies of Israel. ומנחיל להם תבוסה מוחלטת. And he destroys them, he knocks them out. ובעקבותיה, and due to this knockout, we go back to Zechariah, שלל כל הגויים מחולק לעם ישראל. Then the loot gets dispersed, the spoils gets dispersed amongst all of Am Yisrael. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you again. Have we seen that part? That part, not yet so much.
That's scary.
Huh?
That's scary.
It's scarier, yeah. Much scarier, of course. That they're actually going to conquer Yerushalayim and exile half the people? The only thing is, you realize that happened already.
What percentage of Yerushalayim right now is East Jerusalem?
Oh no, when I'm saying it happened already, I wasn't referring to right now. I'm saying this has happened before that, you know, Yerushalayim nichbesha. Time of the Golus of Yechet, I mean, more than half the people were exiled, but your question was what, how much today? What's the percentage today? I don't know.
Because like time-wise, everything is like, you have to take it out of our concept.
Correct.
Maybe this is happening. Maybe
Yeah,
like
I don't-
in our eyes we can't see it, but if you look at the little thing, then maybe.
Well, the piece of, well, I want to say two things about this. One is that we've been saying this a lot here on Shabbos or in Kiddushes or something, when we're giving brachas, quoting the Lubavitcher Rebbe, saying that for years, a Yid's emunah in Galus took so much strength. It takes so much to hang on and to believe. But a Mashiach way of emunah is that it's batov hanira v'anigle, that you could see it, that it's good, not just believe that something's good, but that you literally look at what you're going through in the eyes and you see that this is good, and not just, okay, kol tova, it's all for good. I believe, and so this concept of God coming out and fighting the enemies of Israel, it's going to be clear to all. That's what I want to say. You won't have to have an assumption of, you won't have to like say, no, it was really Yadash, it was really Chayalim, or it'll be very clear that it's a Kadosh Baruch Hu doing it. Now the piece of the Shalal, that's a piece that both Yechezkel and Zechariah bring up, the spoils. Now, I don't know about you, are you interested in any spoils from our enemies? Could you imagine taking into your house? Maybe just a better view, maybe if they have better aerial views of Har HaBayit, maybe I would, No, but it wouldn't, because maybe we'd go to Beis HaMikdash, but what kind of spoils, we don't understand. I believe, like I once saw a parsha that said the spoils are actually things that have been hidden in their walls before they even got there by Yidden that were living in these places from thousands of years ago, that were setting up the stage for us to go in and receive everything, similar to Tzarat. Remember Tzarat, when there was Tzarat on the house, so they would find the gold and silver. So, and also Yaakov Avinu, remember what kind of trees he planted, right? The cedars of Lebanon, which then ended up becoming the wood that we used in the Beis HaMikdash. So these are things that we haven't. I want to believe that these promises and these prophecies weren't waiting for a generation that had to work really hard to believe that it's happening. But if it's the generation that's going to greet Mashiach, that it's pashut revealed, totally revealed. You think we're there already.
Listen, you're talking about spoils, and you see young Chayalim who was saying that they went into the houses and they found a menorah that came from somewhere, and how happy they were to bring it back to Israel.
100%. So I'm saying,
It's the
meaning it's
beginning.
our
It's
stuff,
not all
yeah.
at once, but it's the beginning. Just want to be optimistic, I guess.
It's good what you're saying. I just want to believe in the Jew that lives in Galut, in Chutz La'aretz. I believe in them with all my heart and soul, that what will be happening will be so real and so magnetic that there won't be a question at all as to where do I want to live tomorrow. It'll be crystal clear. No shilas at all whatsoever. None.
So it seems to me that the war is keeping half the Jews out of Eretz Yisrael. And that's the half that's leaving Yerushalayim.
I don't want to get into this.
Okay, but,
I don't want to do this. I want to move forward.
okay.
Shelo kedat ha'amon, as opposed to the day of the majority, second paragraph, Hamilchama einena ben Gog uben Magog. It's not this. Some people think, Milchem is Gog UMagog. That means there are these two entities called Gog and Magog, and they're going to fight each other, and it's going to scare the whole world. Ela Gog hu melech Magog. So Gog is the king of this entity called Magog. That's just, first of all, to understand this on a technical level. Gog hu melech gadol, he's a great king, shemeshamesh nasi shel od umot. He is a huge king that also is like the supreme being of many other nations. Chazal chalukim b'mahut medinot halalu. Chazal don't really say who's on whose side, meaning who's under his jurisdiction. It's not like Achashverosh, where it was very clear and different there that the whole world he was reigning over everything, but it wasn't clear back then. And if it wasn't clear in the time of the Talmud, ברור שכיום אין שום אפשרות לדעת מי הן האומות האלו. We have no way of knowing who falls under the jurisdiction of Magog, of Gog, right? We have no way of knowing. רק כאשר יתרחשו הדברים, only when things unfold, and they happen, יהיה אפשר לדעת שאכן זה גוג שאליו התכוון הנביא, then you'll know. Like once it happens, then you'll know. This is similar to a theme throughout the Rambam. Throughout the Rambam, a lot of his answers to certain things is, what was the Lashon he used? What's that? Yeda, Neda, it's something like Nedak she'yikra, yeah. Like we'll know when it happens, right? We'll know when it happens. Lo yedam, I found it. Lo yeda adam ech yiyu, ad she'yiyu. Okay? But you'll know. So this war of Gog UMagog has three purposes. Lemilchama zo shalosh matarot. Ligrom lekol ha'olam la'amin ba'Hashem. That's a nice thing. This will cause the whole world to recognize Hashem, to believe in God. Le'achar she'akol yir'u et ototav ve'et moftav. There'll be such wonders, there'll be such miracles taking place that everyone will know afterwards. There won't be any dry eye, there won't be any doubts about anything. Bet, לשלם גמול לאומות הרעות ולהשיג את נקמת השם בגויים הרשעים אשר רדפו את עם ישראל. Another point and purpose of this war is that those that deserve to have a vengeance taken against them will happen. It's not stam that we say, all the time, Kel nekamot Hashem, Kel nekamot Ofia. God, the God of vengeance, and must appear in order to shalem ra'ah. Listen, we're very, very stuck in our war, which is very, very real and brutal. But there are many other bad people in the world that are doing bad things to other people. Many. Honestly, if we weren't stuck in our mishigas, but all the other things that are happening in the world were still happening, we'd be shocked and appalled. We wouldn't believe it. And each week it seems like this is happening somewhere else, like Pakistan and India now. To not even begin to discuss what's going on in Russia and in Ukraine, there are so many regions where you can't say everyone's just drek and everyone should just go to Chas v'Shalom to Ganem, and as long as Yidden are okay. That's not our Besorah for the world. Our Besorah is for all of mankind and all the good people of the world. So another one of the purposes of Gog UMagog, that through this, what will happen? There will be a gmul, there will be a retribution taken against those that are the enemies of Hashem, and this for the Nikam of Hashem to come into the world. 3. The third point of this war, Gimel, lezakech et Am Yisrael. To refine Am Yisrael, to purify it, like Shemen Zayid Zach, right? Refine olive oil, purify Zach. You know, in Chassidus, they always say that when you say the words Harachamanu Yizakenu, L'Mois Mashiach, so Misnagid says Harachamanu Yizakenu, God, I'll merit to see the days of Mashiach. A Chassid says Rebbeinu Shli is davening, Harachamanu Yizakenu, Ata tezakech otanu. You'll purify us, you'll crush us, you'll refine us so much until we have eyes to see Yemos HaMashiach. Harachamanu Yizakenu L'Yemot HaMashiach. לזכך את עם ישראל ולסלק מהם את הפושעים והמורדים. And to remove all criminals and rebels שאינם ראויים לראות את נפלאות הגאולה, that aren't worthy of seeing the wonders of redemption, או לגרום להם לעשות תשובה שלמה. I want to go with number 2. Or to cause them to be able to do tshuva shlema so that they could also merit to see the geula shlema. But we do know that the concept of people that are just stuck in what they're stuck in, when it came to Mitzrayim, we saw that during Makas Choshech, that's when those that had no intentions of coming out and wanted to keep their rebellion ad asof, Hashem didn't want to see there to be a chilul Hashem, to see these Yidlach are holding on to their own mishigas and they're not coming out. So therefore, during Shloshet Yemei HaChoshech, Shloshet Yemei HaAfela, the 3 days of darkness, these rebels were removed from the tzibur. But I like, again, like what's in brackets, I like more. And that's that, because I mean, how do I know that I'm not part of the, I don't know, that I'm not part of the camp of the, Pushim and Mordim. I don't know. I want a chance for real tshuva before this happens as well. So I want to be around for it. I want to see it. I want to hold my children in my arms and look at it. So, kfi shenireh medivrei haneviim v'chazal, it seems what we're seeing from the prophecies and from the sages, lo yitzterech Am Yisrael lilachem b'goyim harabim sheyalu alav. Okay, so if you look at everything we learned, what's our job? What's our role in this war? Everything that we learned so far about Gog UMagog, what's our job in the war? Do we have to do anything? No. Do we have to fight any war? It doesn't say here that we fight, that we go out in this war. That's a shtickle comforting, no? Finally, a little bit of, okay. It does. According to this, it says, "Hamilchama titnahel al yidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmo." This war will be fought by God Himself. Benisim ubeniflaot atzumim, with the most miraculous, tremendous miracles. Kmo chen, omrim Chazal, שהמשיח יילחם בגוג ובצבאותיו על ידי רוח ספסיו. There's a saying in our sages that Mashiach will be the only one that fights this war of Gog UMagog. But through what? Through his lips. What does that mean? כמו כפי שנאמר, וברוח שפתיו ימית רשע. Through the spirit of his lips, of his mouth, he will put an end to the life of the wicked. Baruch, what was that movie or a TV show, whatever it is, that you had the power to, there's many of them probably, like you could just say something and the person in front of you, whatever, you use your imagination. Obviously, we have to use our imagination with a lot of these things. Barur gam ken ki hamilchama tavi shefa ubracha la'am Yisrael. This war of Gog UMagog will bring an abundance of blessing to Am Yisrael. Ve'ima tagia hageula hashlema lishleimuta. And with it, the geula will come to its shleimus.
We're not there.
Sorry?
We're fighting this war and using a lot of
Chayalim.
so I don't think we're there yet.
So, the last paragraph won't change your mind, but it'll put something into perspective. Kvi shekvar uzkar, yesh masoret shel talmidei Baal Shem Tov. There's a tradition amongst the students of the Baal Shem Tov. It's brought down, and you see footnote 57. Re'eh Shem Yishmuel al Parshas Vayiga. Shem Yishmuel was the Sochot Rebbe. In the writings of the Sochot Rebbe, he writes like this: She'orech hagalut, the length of this galus, ve'asanot, and the catastrophes that have happened, she'ir'u le'am Yisrael, hichlifu et Gog UMagog. What's Gog UMagog against the 6 million? It's a joke. What's Gog UMagog against 1,020, over 25,000 Yidden giving their lives to be here? We could live in Eretz Yisrael through bus bombings and everything like that. So there's a Masoret from the Baal Shem Tov that the length of this galus and the pain and the calamities that we've gone through, that it's exchanged. It's been an exchange. Ichlifu et Gog UMagog. V'lachen ikvar lo titrachesh. And therefore, everything we learned right now won't end up happening because it already the length of the galus and the pain that we've endured is in exchange for it. So that's a very deep, that's a very profound outlook on the whole topic. I'm sorry, I don't have a watch. Meira, what time is it? Okay, so just a few things, a few important things over here. Because I'm going to finish this parak, you just don't have it in front of you, but I'm just going to say it to you, Ba'al Peh. The things that the Rambam says, we're not sure exactly how it will be until it happens. The way that we're learning it over here is that these are not the ikarim. This is not the ikar. So Tomeret, we're learning all these different pieces and all these different ideas and all the different, seems to be developments of things that we come to conclusions that seem to be tarte desat, that they're contradicting themselves. And we've seen this already probably for like 3 weeks of learning continuously. That's stam. It's important for us, for the learning, like the Rebbe said, that the more that we learn anything that has to do with Bias Mashiach, we have to believe that not only does it strengthen our belief in the coming of Mashiach, but it also does bring that great day much, much closer. And I was so beyond proud this Shabbos in Shul when a father of a bar mitzvah boy gave one of the most mind-blowing, I don't want to call it a speech, I would call it like an induction or a crowning of a prince even, a speech where he said, he asked his son to look around the shul, look at everyone, and realize this is your team, Team Mashiach. Team Mashiach. It's much, much more important to have a consciousness of where we're heading to and what the end goal is than understanding how every detail along the way works, because many of the details are not clear. So therefore we have to understand, as much as we're learning these things, deciphering if something is Milchemet Gog UMagog is not as important than just learning about it. I know that sounds weird, right? Our Western minds are programmed to know, to basically say, I learned something for real if I have a bottom line. But what if there is no bottom line? Then did I learn it or not? Right? Did I learn it or not? The Torah is not about the bottom lines. And how could you, if that was the case, we have a problem with a lot of Gemaras that end off with saying, basically, I don't know. Forget that. When the Gemara doesn't have the answer, yeah, but who's involved in that? Eliyahu Navi. That's the 4th time he shows up. Eliyahu Navi is there. So therefore, it's important for us to understand these are very important things, but they're not the ikarim. What's the ikar about it? To learn it, to learn the sugya, to daven for it, to believe in its existence, and, if I may humbly add, that whatever the vision of Mashiach is for you, and what that person's going to look like, until he comes, I'm going to act like him. I'm not going to go out and wage war against, not that piece. But maybe the piece of Veheshiv Lev Avos al Banim Velev Banim al Avosam, or all those other beautiful descriptions of what harmony will be like, what the beauty of the world will be like. We're starting a new week this week. This week, like we've seen so many times in the last few years, and we think we know what's going to be this week. We have no idea what this week is going to look like. We have no idea. This is Lag BaOmer this week, Pesach Sheni. There's so many things in the air. When's the American president supposed to come here? You see, who knows? Who knows? There's so much. But you know what we know for sure is this week? Another opportunity. Like this for sure does exist this week. All other things are question marks. We have no idea. No idea. But what do we know this week? Hashem gave us the week at least to start it off. To start it off strong with the projection in our hearts, with kavanah in our heart, that we are going to become stronger believers, not just as a passive train of thought, but as an active engine inside of us. So that Be'ezrat Hashem, none of us will be shocked when everything that we've been learning happens. How exactly it happens, again, that's less important in light of that it will. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. All right. Have a Geula Dika week, everybody. Shavua Tov.
Facebook Live.